All right, so get this, the brown pelican. You know, you've probably seen it, maybe even seen it like clumsily waddling around on a pier or something.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But this bird, the state bird of Louisiana no less, almost completely vanished.
Wow.
Yeah. And today, we're going to figure out how they were nearly wiped out and then the incredible story of their comeback.
It's a story that that really showcases how interconnected nature is and like the impact, both positive and negative, that we as humans, have.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got excerpts from this article. It's called The Brown Pelican, an icon of grace and resilience. And you probably already know that they dive for fish.
Right.
But what makes the brown pelican unique is their plunge diving technique.
Exactly. And to understand that, we need to look at their physical characteristics. So while they're the smallest of the pelican species, their wingspan is still pretty big, about 3.5 to 5 feet.
5 feet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's huge. I can just imagine the force they need to pull out of a dive like that, especially with their beak full of fish.
Right. That's where their most recognizable feature comes in, the bill in the pouch.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not just for show. It's essentially like a built-in fishing net.
Oh, wow.
Perfectly adapted for scooping up fish during these high-impact dives.
So unlike other pelicans who just kind of scoop fish up while they're swimming, these guys are like feathered torpedoes.
Yeah, precisely. But there's another fascinating aspect to the brown pelican that the article highlights.
Okay.
They aren't solitary birds. They're actually highly social.
Really?
Yeah, they fly in V formations, they congregate in these large colonies, and they even have these elaborate courtship rituals involving a lot of bill clapping and preening.
Okay, that's adorable. Yeah. I'm picturing like a bunch of clumsy pelicans trying to be graceful and romantic all at the same time.
Right.
So where do these lovebirds and all these other brown pelicans hang out? Like, what's their habitat?
Well, as you might guess, they love coastal areas.
Makes sense.
Estuaries, mangroves, salt marshes, all those places where, the land meets the sea.
Yeah.
And their range is pretty extensive, covering the Atlantic, Pacific, and Gulf coasts of the Americas, even extending down to South America and the Galapagos Islands.
Wow, that's a lot of coastline.
Mm-hmm.
But it brings up an important question. They need a lot of fish to support those large colonies.
Yeah, you're right.
So what happens when their food source is threatened?
That's where the story takes a bit of a dark turn. Back in the mid-20th century, something happened that almost wiped them out. The pesticide DDT.
Oh, okay. So full disclosure, I knew DDT was bad,
Sure.
but I never really connected it to pelicans.
Yeah.
What did it actually do to them?
Well, DDT caused widespread reproductive failure in brown pelicans. Imagine this. Scientists discovered that it led to eggshell thinning.
What?
Yeah, making the eggs so fragile that they would often break before the chicks could even hatch.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. No wonder they were in trouble. The article mentions that by 1970, they were officially listed as endangered.
Right.
So was the DDT ban the only thing that saved them? Or were there other factors at play?
Well, the DDT ban in 1972 was absolutely crucial, but it wasn't the only factor. Numerous conservation initiatives were launched. Habitat protection programs were established, and public awareness campaigns helped people understand, the plight of the brown pelican.
Right.
And what they could do to help.
So it was a combination of scientific intervention, policy changes, and a shift in public perception. What a story.
Yeah.
And the results speak for themselves. By 2009, less than 40 years after being on the brink of extinction, the brown pelican was removed from the Endangered Species List.
Yeah, that's a really incredible story.
That's incredible. It gives me hope.
Yeah.
It shows that even when things look really dire, we can turn things around.
Absolutely.
But even though they've made a comeback, I imagine they still face challenges, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Their recovery is a testament to their resilience.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they're completely in the clear. Habitat loss, pollution, and climate change still pose serious threats.
I bet the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010 was a major setback.
Oh, absolutely.
Just how devastating was that for them?
Yeah, that's a perfect example of the kind of catastrophic event that can, undo years of conservation efforts. Oil spills are incredibly harmful to pelicans. They contaminate their feathers, making it impossible to fly or stay warm, and if they ingest the oil, it can be fatal.
Oh, that's awful. So it sounds like even with their remarkable comeback, they're still kind of walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
What are some of the more everyday threats they face?
One major issue is entanglement in fishing gear. They can get caught in nets and lines, and if they can't free themselves, they drown. And of course, competition with humans for fish is always a concern.
Right. That makes sense. We're essentially fishing in their pantry.
Yeah.
So is there any good news? What are some of the things being done to protect them now?
Well, there are a lot of people working hard to protect brown pelicans.
Okay, good.
Organizations and communities are restoring habitat, rescuing entangled birds, and educating the public about the importance of responsible fishing practices. And scientists are constantly studying them, trying to understand their needs and, how we can best ensure their survival.
Okay, that's good to hear. It sounds like their future is brighter now, but still a little bit uncertain.
Yeah,
But the story doesn't end there, does it?
not at all. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into the cultural and ecological significance of the brown pelican, their role as indicators of ocean health, and what their comeback truly means for the future of conservation.
Stay with us. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about all those challenges facing the brown pelican.
Right.
But now, let's dive into what makes them so special, beyond just, like, their incredible comeback story.
Yeah, their cultural and ecological significance is really, really fascinating.
Okay, I'm ready. I keep hearing about their status as the state bird of Louisiana. It seems like more than just a random choice, you know?
It's very symbolic. The brown pelican really embodies Louisiana's spirit.
Okay.
Think about it. They're survivors. Just like the people of Louisiana who have faced, hurricanes, oil spills, and all sorts of other environmental challenges.
Yeah. So they're not just a pretty face on a flag.
No,
They represent resilience, like in the face of adversity.
exactly. And that connection goes beyond symbolism. The brown pelican is a crucial part of the Gulf Coast ecosystem.
Okay, so spill the tea. What makes them so ecologically important?
Well, for one, they're top predators.
Okay.
Their diet consists mainly of fish, and they eat a lot of it. This helps keep fish populations balanced, prevents any one species from kind of taking over.
So it's like nature's checks and balances system.
Right.
I never thought about it that way.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here's another thing. By studying brown pelicans, scientists can learn a lot about the health of the entire Gulf of Mexico.
Hold on. Are you saying these birds are like environmental detectives or something?
In a way, yes. They're very sensitive to changes in their environment, particularly changes in water quality and the availability of, their prey. If something is wrong in the ecosystem, it'll show up in the pelicans first.
That's incredible. So healthy pelicans equal a healthy Gulf. But we've talked about the negative impacts that humans have had.
Right.
Is there any way that we can actually coexist with them?
There absolutely is. While we have to be mindful of potential conflicts, particularly when it comes to, fishing and coastal development, there's a growing movement towards finding solutions that benefit both pelicans and people.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me some examples of how that's actually happening.
One major effort is focused on protecting pelican nesting sites.
Okay.
Organizations and communities are working together to, create safe havens where these birds can raise their young undisturbed.
That makes sense. If they don't have a safe place to nest, then they can't reproduce.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of bycatch in fisheries. This is when pelicans and other marine animals get accidentally caught in fishing nets.
Yeah, I've heard about that. It's a huge problem for all sorts of marine life.
It is, but thankfully there are initiatives aimed at reducing bycatch.
Okay.
This involves, working with fishermen to develop and use gear that minimizes the unintended capture of non-target species.
So working with the fishing industry rather than against them, that's encouraging.
Right.
What about habitat restoration?
Habitat restoration is crucial.
Yeah.
Efforts are underway to, restore damaged coastal ecosystems like salt marshes and mangroves, which are essential for pelicans and a whole host of other species.
So it's a win-win. We help the pelicans and we help the entire coastal ecosystem.
Precisely. And I think this is a key takeaway from the brown pelican story. Their fate is intertwined with the fate of our oceans. By protecting them, we're ultimately protecting ourselves.
That's a powerful thought. But their story isn't over, is it?
Right.
What does the future hold for the brown pelican, especially considering all those ongoing threats we've talked about?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are definitely challenges ahead. Habitat loss, pollution, and climate change continue to, loom large.
Yeah, so it's a constant uphill battle.
Yeah.
Are there any areas where you see particular cause for concern or conversely reasons to be optimistic?
Well, one major concern is the continued development along our coasts. As more and more people move to coastal areas, pelican habitat is kind of being squeezed.
Right.
We need to find ways to develop responsibly, minimizing our impact on these sensitive ecosystems.
So smarter development, not just more development.
Exactly. On a more positive note, technology is playing an increasingly important role in pelican conservation.
Okay, this sounds interesting. Tell me more about how technology is helping these birds.
Well, scientists are using satellite tracking to study pelican movements and pinpoint important areas for their survival. This information can then be used to, create protected areas or inform development decisions.
So we're basically using high-tech tools to understand their needs and protect them.
That's a great way to put it. And with advancements in, artificial intelligence and data analysis, we can learn even more about their behavior, population trends, and the factors that affect their well-being. This knowledge will be crucial for, making effective conservation decisions in the years to come.
Yeah. It sounds like the future of pelican conservation, while still challenging, is filled with potential.
I think so too. And remember, everyone can play a role in this effort, whether it's, supporting conservation organizations, making sustainable choices in our daily lives, or simply spreading awareness about the plight of these birds. Every action matters.
Well said. It's a collective effort. But before we move on, I want to take a moment to reflect on, what we've learned. The brown pelican's journey from near extinction to a symbol of conservation success is truly inspiring.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the resilience of nature and the power of human action, when we set our minds to something.
And their story shows just how interconnected we are with the natural world.
Absolutely. What happens to the brown pelican happens to us all, in a way. Their fate is a reflection of our own relationship with the planet.
That's a profound thought. And speaking of connections, in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to sort of zoom out and look at the bigger picture of ocean conservation.
We'll discuss the global challenges facing our oceans and, what we can all do to ensure a healthy future for marine life, including our beloved brown pelican.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of the brown pelican.
Right.
But before we do, I kind of want to take a step back, and think about what their story tells us about the bigger picture of ocean conservation.
Yeah, the brown pelican's journey really is like a microcosm of the challenges and the opportunities facing our oceans globally.
Okay, so we talked about those threats that they're facing, habitat loss, pollution, climate change.
Right.
But when we zoom out and look at the entire ocean,
Right.
what are some of the other big issues that we need to be worried about?
Well, overfishing is a huge problem. We're taking fish out of the ocean faster than they can replenish themselves. And that has, ripple effects throughout the entire ecosystem.
So it's not just about protecting individual species like the brown pelican, right?
Right.
It's about ensuring the health of the entire web of life in the ocean.
Exactly. And then there's plastic pollution. It's everywhere, from the surface to the deepest trenches.
Oh, yeah.
It's choking marine animals, disrupting food chains, and ultimately ending up back on our plates in the form of microplastics.
That's terrifying. It feels like we're drowning the ocean in our garbage.
Yeah.
Is there any hope of turning things around?
There's absolutely hope.
Okay.
We have the knowledge and the technology to make a difference, and there's a growing global movement demanding change.
Okay, so what are some of the key things that we need to do to get back on track?
Yeah.
Where do we even begin?
Well, one crucial step is transitioning to sustainable fishing practices. This means, fishing in a way that doesn't deplete fish stocks and minimizes damage to habitats.
So catching only what we need and being careful about how we catch it.
Exactly. We also need to drastically reduce our carbon emissions, slow down climate change and its devastating effects on the ocean, protecting critical marine habitats like coral reefs, mangroves, and seagrass beds is also essential.
Okay, that makes sense. But those are all big systemic changes.
Right.
What can we do as individuals to contribute? It feels like our little actions can't possibly make a dent in a problem this massive.
Never underestimate the power of individual action. The choices we make